My name is Kinita Shenoy. I'm 28 and I'm a communications professional. I try not to describe my skin color too much, but I think that if I was somebody who's trying to get me married off, they'd probably say I was medium to fair. I haven't really, but growing up in Sri Lanka, I certainly did hear a lot of make sure you stay out of the sun, or nice fair girl, that sort of thing. And it was always a little confusing to me because that's not the sort of thing we talked about at home. No, no one in my family has tried to give me a fairness product, but elder generations have said things like, you know, when I've come back from the beach, there's been some comments like, oh, what has happened to your skin, and why didn't you wear a hat, and that kind of thing. But luckily for me, my parents always intervened and said, no, we don't talk about that sort of thing, which I only appreciated, you know, now that I'm an adult. No, I've never been made to feel less than for being my skin color. I would say I haven't faced colorism as much as I faced maybe racism in other countries. I would say that's definitely less to do with the color of my skin and just absolutely a race problem. I think that there has been a fairly consistent stream of prejudice against darker skinned people. I've seen this professionally and socially in Sri Lanka and India. I think it ranges everything from seeing, you know, a perfectly normal, beautiful girl and saying, oh, so beautiful, but dark, no? In a sort of a social setting, and going all the way into professional, where people say, oh, I don't think it makes sense to cast her, she's a bit too dark for this profile. And to me, I always find that really confusing because, you know, 90% of us are fairly dark skinned. So it's a bit odd that in professional circles there's been so much prejudice against having darker skinned people, or I'm not even sure if I'm saying darker, but just average skinned people in shoots and in ads and in the modeling and that sort of thing. So in my professional life, I used to be an editor-in-chief for a few years for different publications. In certain roles, there was a lot of front-facing activity where we had to hire models, we had to deal with advertisers and that sort of thing. There was a consistent stream of, oh, we have to put lighter-skinned people on the cover, or we have to put forget lighter-skinned people, we have to put white people on the cover, and that sort of thing. And partially that was down to what the audience wanted. People were more interested in reading about Caucasian celebrities than brown-scale celebrities, which I think is something we really have to question. But secondly, there was also a large sense of advertising pressure. So I think I had to deal with a significant amount of that just in terms of deciding as to what narrative we wanted to feed young women, and what side of history we wanted to be on, essentially. I wouldn't say, I think I've been quite privileged in the sense that colorism has not affected me directly. So I even feel uncomfortable speaking to the experience of other people. As an industry though, and colorism is an industry, it has affected me because I have refused to sort of support quite racist bleaching products or whitening products or fairness products. And as somebody who was in a relative position of power and privilege, I was still told that, you know, my job would be taken away from me, my role would be taken away from me, I would be deplatformed, etc. So I think that it's important to remember that things like colorism and racism and sexism don't exist in a vacuum. There are people that are profiting off it, and they do want to ensure that people don't talk about what's happening. I think skin color is absolutely a big deal when it comes to selecting a partner in Sri Lanka. I think we just need to open up any matrimonial page and see what the requirements are. Everybody's asking for or is advertised as a fair-skinned, slim, foreign educated, whatever, bride or groom. And I think we really need to question why that is, because obviously it's such a deeply ingrained part of our society. If you want to know how any community or society functions, one of the best ways to look at it is how they form relationships. And I think both in Sri Lanka and in India, fairness is a huge part of the wedding industry. And it is obviously representative of how we feel about our own skins and how we feel that proximity to whiteness is one of the most important things we can aspire to. I think Sri Lanka has a very, very deep problem when it comes to this obsession with fairness. I don't think that Sri Lanka is unique in the South Asian region for this. I think most of our countries here are very obsessed with this idea of fairness. And I think that we need to be quite careful before judging the people that are victims of it. I see a lot of discourse sometimes that sort of laugh at people for using bleaching creams and then, either having burns or acne or things like that as a result of it. Or I see people laughing at people who request for fairness, fair people in terms of like marital prospects. And we must remember that everybody who feels that they need to be fairer is not part of the problem. They are actually a product of the system. What we should be really considering is the society that makes people feel like they need to bleach themselves. We need to be considering the ads and the marketing that tell people that they are lesser than if they're not their normal skin color that they're born with. I think at all times we really have to follow the route of the profit, and also follow who is benefiting from this. When young girls are told that they're not the right skin color for the skin color that they're born with, who benefits from it? It is a society that takes great pleasure in telling young women how to behave, how to dress, how to act. It is a society that tells young women that their accomplishments are worthless, that their education is worthless, that their personality is worthless if they're not the right skin color. So I think that we should really focus our attention on A, the society, and B, the industries that benefit off colorism. So I absolutely believe that fairness skin products and fairness skin advertisements are a huge part of the problem. I don't know if we can really attribute it to being the root cause of the problem. Of course, here in South Asia, there are multiple reasons as to why we have this obsession with fair skin. One of the reasons could, of course, be colonization, because we simply want to be closer to the white person. We think that being white would make us seem more beautiful, more intelligent, more worthy of love or affection or job. But secondly, there is also a large class and caste system that comes into colorism. The class system comes into place where people who were seen as sort of, less well off or unable to sort of live lives of leisure had to work out in the field or work out in the sun, and thus they were darker. And people who were fair-skinned were seen as being sort of high society because they were essentially unemployed and didn't have to do anything outside. So there's that part as well. But I think that it's important that we don't dwell too much on the blame game of whose fault it is for colorism, because we are here today in 2020 and it is still a problem. We can't just blame colonization or the class system anymore. We have to look at the root causes. And today, one of the main causes that is currently still happening is, number one, the society, and number two, are these advertisements that do massive marketing campaigns across villages, across cities, to tell people that they are lesser than if they're not white or fair-skinned. A lot of these people did not believe that prior to these marketing campaigns. So I think these ads are very much a root cause of these problems, and they really need to be reassessed. So I think there's a lot of calls for banning these products outright, and I question the efficacy of an approach like that. I do think, of course, they need to be banned, but what happens in that vacuum? Because the need for the product is still there. So I think in South Africa in 2015, they banned all products that were whitening and fairness and anything with hydroquinone in it. And what ended up happening was people started resorting to off-brand and off-shelf products, which were even more unsafe. So my point is that, of course, we need to get rid of these products, but we need to get rid of the root cause as to why people want the products in the first place. And I believe that it is partially the responsibility of these huge conglomerates to, when and if, I hope it's when, start to ban these products, they also start to reverse the trends that they have created and create social and behavioral change programs across rural areas to explain to people why they actually are perfectly fine with their skin color the way it is. I think I think the young people out there right now are certainly a lot smarter and a lot more knowledgeable about stuff like this than me and my generation ever were at their age. I see Gen Zers today and they have a very strong grasp of what's not okay and what they're not willing to tolerate. Whether it's climate change, whether it's racism, whether it's sexism. So I think that the younger generation is doing a fantastic job of rallying against toxic trends and toxic ads and toxic society. But I would tell them that it's important to always keep your eye on the prize, so to speak. Always remember that there is somebody who is benefiting from your oppression. There's always somebody who is winning because you feel terrible about something. And the sooner we start questioning who is benefiting, who is profiting from our insecurities, the faster you start to A, overcome your insecurities, and B, start to change the system that creates them in the first place. And I think that this bit of advice works for everything. It works for things that tell you that you need to be skinnier. It works for things that tell you need to be fairer. It works for things that need to tell you that you need to be quieter. All of these things either directly profit off you as an industry, or they profit off you as a society because they want you to feel terrible about yourself so that you don't focus on the real problems. Of your color.